This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for July 11, 2011. Tonight we have 6 petitions before us. Anyone wishing to speak on a petition, please sign in and state your name and address for the record. Our first petition is a continuance, and this is ZB 2011-13. It's for a special permit and variance for signs. The applicant is Enterprise Rental Car at 280 Chelmsford Street, and the petition is to reface 2 internally illuminated signs and exceed the allowed square footage for wall signage pursuant to section 6.3.2 of the zoning ordinance. It's a representative of Enterprise Car Rental. Please approach the board.
Yes, good evening. Richard Westergren with Point Signs, and also Becky Marcinovich.
Yes, good evening, sir.
I believe a meeting was held a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, concerning the matter was continued for. I didn't attend, but Becky did, so I believe she can fill in the board
Sure.
with what took place.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Becky Marcinkovich. I work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and the continuance was to discuss landscaping improvements at the property. I don't believe there were any major concerns with the actual signs themselves, just with complying with an agreement that was made between the city and the owner of the property. And we have had some meetings at the site and have discussed the landscaping. We haven't come to an agreement yet, but I'd like to propose that just in order to kind of keep things moving along, if we could get an approval for the signs contingent upon either the approval of the landscaping plans, or if for some reason we're not able to come to an agreement, the other alternative is that the fence on the property would be moved more into our property and off of the city's property. So I don't know if there's a way that we could get approval for the signs contingent upon either substantial completion of the landscaping or on moving the fence and pulling up the parking, the asphalt on the lot that isn't part of our property.
Okay. Yeah, we've received a couple of communications in regards to the continuing conversations between the 2 parties. And as far as the signage itself, which I know this gentleman's here for, I think we've discussed that before, and you had changed the plans on the original size, and I believe that's the new square footage we're looking at. Right. Second of all, I know DPD's encouraged with the discussions that they're having with Enterprise. Mm-hmm. So I see that as a viable option. I would still like to open it up to the public to see if there's any input, and also to the board. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add, or sir, anything you'd like to add? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone here to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Kevin.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't see any problem with the signs themselves. I think the solution that Enterprise has brought forward probably makes sense. It seems like they're working in good faith to try to get this done with the city. So if we can make that a contingency upon approval moving forward of the sign, I think that's a win-win for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Vesna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do concur with Kevin. I see a sign of progress here. I would be happy to, approve it with conditions that they work on the sign with the landscape with the other parties on that. So I'd be happy to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Corey.
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. Like you stated, Mr. Chairman, the letter is rather encouraging. But I do have a question. If you can approach the podium, ma'am. Now, as to the landscaping, it looks like both parties are moving forward. Now, who is going to be responsible, if you don't mind me asking, who is going to be responsible for the landscaping? Is it the owner or is it yourself?
Per the agreement, it would be the owner, but in reality, it's going to be Enterprise that'll be paying for it and
Okay,
maintaining
all right.
it.
Because, you know, I don't know, there's actually 3 parties involved here in this case, so, you know,
Right.
you know, if the other board members see it clear to approve this contingent upon a landscaping plan, and what else are we looking for here, Mr. Chairman? Landscaping and,
Well, what they're working on is, this landscaping, but they're also talking about a certain portion of the lot.
on the right-of-way,
My
yes.
understanding with the
right.
right-of-way, the city and the current owner have been negotiating on.
Okay, all right, we can, if the other board members see it clear, I think I'd be on board with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The memo that we have states that DPW strongly supports the continuance of the application, so I understand that the negotiations are ongoing, and it seems like it's been probably a month that this has been ongoing, so I don't know how long it takes to negotiate landscape. It just seems like a bit of a struggle for something as simple as landscaping. So I'm a little worried that this is not moving along as it should. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Well, to Dennis's point, it's my understanding there were two, there was a variance, it's a variance and a permit, right? Special permit for signs. I mean, the sign portion of it, I think the applicant has shown that they changed their original dimensions for their signs, which came more into regulation with us. So I believe, and I'm working in good faith, I know these have been ongoing negotiations, so, and every indication I've been given is that the city feels pretty comfortable with working with Mr. Spinney, trying to wrap this thing up. So I would support that we approve this with the condition that the city and, that the petitioner and the current property owner continue to work for a solution. And Aaron, is there anything else we would need to, I guess, framework around that condition?
The only thing I might recommend is that a final landscape plan be agreed upon by all parties before the building permit for the sign is actually able to be pulled. But it's just in essence that the landscape plan is agreed upon by all.
So no signage would go up until
Correct.
the final, and if,
Right.
does could I have you come to the podium, please? I just want to make sure Enterprise understands what the condition would entail as far as the signage goes.
Yeah, we'd even talked, and I know there's an appeal period anyway, but we talked about the landscaping being substantially complete on the property with the exception of the planting of the trees, because the trees, if you plant them in the dead of summer, they're just not going to survive, so the trees wouldn't be planted until the fall. But if the rest of the landscaping were complete, my understanding is that's when we'd be able to pull our permit and get the signs installed.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, Mr. Clerk, I'd like to put a motion forward that we approve with conditions.
Yep.
You have those?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, through you, I'll make a motion to approve with the following condition, that the petitioner and the property owner continue to work with the city of Lowell on an approved landscaping plan. Now,
Go ahead.
I'll second that motion.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, do we need anything on the encroachment on the right-of-way? Do we need any, make that a condition as well? Aaron, I guess that would go to you.
I can answer. If the landscape plan is agreed upon by all parties, then there's no additional work or any on the legal side or landscape side with the right-of-way. So the landscaping is part of agreement to allow the property user to use a part of the right-of-way.
So it will fall into place, okay.
If the landscape plan's all set, then there's no need to.
Excellent, okay.
Okay, so I'll ask for a second again.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Okay, you've been approved with conditions. And Aaron, is there anything else that they would need to sign at this point?
I believe there is a plan that they could sign here that's got the revised. I have a copy if that works for the board.
Okay. Do we need, yeah, this gentleman to sign?
That would be fine.
Yep, okay. If you could sign
Sign the plan.
for the record, sir.
Clarification of
Sure.
at what point can I actually pull my permit then? Because I've got to release the signs, the fabrication takes time to build these.
So it's my understanding that we just discussed that when the time of the permit would be pulled, and I believe the representative from Enterprise understood what
So
the
we can't do it
conditions
until
were.
that's been settled?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just go ahead and sign it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, good luck. All right, our next petition is under new business. This is ZB 2011-18. This is for a variance, and the applicant is Michael and Diane Gerwin at 42 Osgood Street. And the petition is to maintain an existing garage without meeting side yard setback requirements pursuant to Section 5.1 of the zoning code. Is anyone here to represent 42 Osgood?
Hi,
Hello.
I'm the seller's realtor.
I'm sorry, you who?
The real estate agent?
Okay. Can you tell me why you're here?
Mr. Guerin is trying to sell the property. Back when he bought it, there was no off-street parking, so at the time, he dug up the front yard, installed a driveway, and built a garage. In order to sell the property, we need to have the lot conforming so that the buyers can get a mortgage.
So the buyers can get a mortgage?
Yes.
Okay.
At this time, nobody will finance the property because it's a non-conforming lot.
Okay, so this is a two-family,
Yes, it is.
correct?
Yep.
And the existing garage that's there, has it been used as for a car, to your
Yes,
knowledge?
it has, for the last 17 years.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, going by the unit, so you have the single-car garage, and then it looks like you could probably only park one more car, or two maybe, because if you're going to block that,
No, we can put 6 cars in that driveway.
how many?
6,
You can put 6 in there?
yes.
Okay. That's including putting one in the garage?
It would be 7, including the garage.
Really?
No.
Okay. Is there a reason why Mr. Garowin isn't here?
Mr. Guerin suffered a stroke 2 years ago, and he's not quite able to do this, which is why I'm here on his behalf, and his daughter's with me.
Okay. Okay, do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open it up to the public. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Is there anybody? Oh, sorry, sir.
I'm Joseph Duchamp. I'm the owner of 48 Osgood Street.
Okay.
I'm one of the abutters.
Yep.
I guess I have a couple questions. My first question is, how much distance are they looking for in terms of a variance from the setback?
Well, can I ask you a question, sir? Where is your property located?
My house is closest to the garage. It's
Okay.
48 Osgood Street, which abuts directly on the side.
Okay. Okay. So Aaron, if I can ask a question, the plans that were submitted to us, I see the required, the existing, then I see a structure in place proposed. To answer this gentleman's question, do you have the exact measurements we're talking about?
Yeah, and that same table that you're looking at on the site plan, and it says the building's there, the structure's already there, there's nothing, no expansion being proposed. This is just this is relief to clarify or make legal something that was done a number of years ago. The side yard setback for the side that the garage on is a foot, 1.8 feet. And the minimum required in the zoning code is 10 feet. So the relief would be, the dimension of that relief would be, 8.2 feet on that side. And then there's a requirement for a sum of 25 feet on a side yard for each. And in this case, the sum is 3.8 or 3.79.
3.8.
So that's the relief on the side yard that they'll be looking for is, basically 22 feet.
Right.
But it's just to be clear though, again, it's an existing structure. There's nothing new
Right.
proposed.
So, sir, but it's a pre-existing structure that's already in there. Is there something in particular you were concerned with?
I guess my question was that the deficiency in space for the property setback, where this is a garage that's designed to, you'll say, house a vehicle, zoning and building code requirements would be put there for protection of public health and safety. I know it's an existing structure, but with the fire chief, or is there any, I guess, would the structure inhibit them to protect public health and safety should an unfortunate event occur?
So I'm not sure I follow what your concern is.
Well, the building's 1.8 feet off the lot. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And my house was built in the early 1900s, and it's unfortunately put right on the lot. So that leaves about 2 feet space between
Correct.
the two buildings.
Correct.
So I can walk from one roof to another.
Yep.
So the existing structure as it stands, if something was to happen, would that inhibit the ability of the fire department to put something out? I mean,
You wanna answer that one, please?
I'm not familiar with the fire code or the fire prevention part of the building code, but what I could suggest the zoning board is that, and what we've done in the past for projects like this, where there's something in place and it's you're not looking at a proposal, you're looking at something that exists in place. We could condition approval or add a requirement that the fire prevention Captain Casey, take a look at the plans and make sure that they don't have any concerns with the way the structure is built right now. We as an aside, just from a planning perspective, there are, as you know, a number of buildings throughout the city that are built within a feet of each other, a foot, less than a foot, are connected. So it's not an uncommon type. But if it pleases the board and it might help answer the question, to have the fire prevention officer look at it and provide and review it.
Okay, so this petition itself didn't go out to all the city departments prior to the meeting?
It goes out to the ones that typically go to the zoning board applications typically go, which doesn't necessarily make it to the fire prevention all the time. We try to get it through a design review meeting, which this one had not done so.
So based on that, are we talking about having continuance for this, just to have the fire department review this? Is that?
I think there's probably a couple options. You could continue if there's other outstanding questions, or if it pleases the board, or a condition approval based on a review and approval by the fire prevention officer.
Okay. All right, so did you hear everything that?
I did, thank you.
Yep, okay, thank you. Anybody else here that's in opposition? That part of the public meeting is closed. Kevin, anything from the board?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think I understand both sides, that they're trying to get the property sold, but I do understand it's close to the adjoining property or next door. You know, unfortunately, I think if it were to be removed, it would almost make more of a blight of the property. If, you know, you're just going to have a pad that's sitting there, and I think that actually blocks off to the back area to a pool and things like that. So to satisfy that need, I would be in favor, I guess, based on a contingency of fire safety looking at it. Thank you.
Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a question for the petitioner. And I don't see it in my packet. I don't know if it was asked or if it was mentioned. There was never a building permit put in place?
No, when he had originally done this, he figured he would never sell his property, so he did not pull the permits. Mr. Guerin is a carpenter. He dug out the yard himself, installed the driveway and the garage himself. He built it by hand 17 years ago. Unfortunately, he's very behind on his mortgage, and at this point, he has no choice but to do a short sale on his home.
I guess through you, Mr. Chairman, my question then would be, is the garage an acceptable part of the building? Is it taxable at this point?
He has been, I can show records showing that he has paid tax on it for at least the last 13 years.
So the city has accepted the building, is
Yes.
what I'm getting at. Okay, thank you very much.
Vessa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question also for the petitioners or the Realtor. If you could come up to the podium again, please, the Realtor. Thank you. My question is how long has this garage been built?
17 years.
17 years.
Yes.
And throughout those 17 years, been taxes to the city. Is that correct?
Yes. I know that he's paid taxes for at least 13. I didn't quite go back the full 17, but for at least 13 years, he has been taxed on it and has paid those taxes.
Right. Okay, and well, I do concur, I do share, actually, not concur, but do share the abutter concern with regard to the closeness of this garage to his property. However, this is not a new construction, basically. It's pre-existing, and basically the petitioner asking is to make it legal so that he can sell the property.
Correct.
So
He is either going to sell it or the bank is going to foreclose immediately.
Right. So I'm open to having an opinion from the fire department, but also I also be preparing to vote for it tonight as well. So up to the board. I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Corey?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Mr. Noon. I was by there today, and I do understand the abutters' concern. Granted, it has been there nearly 20 years, and there hasn't been a problem, but you do never know. It is, 2 feet from the property line. Your house is only a few feet from that. So I could see it clear to approve this with an inspection from fire prevention and see how they make out there. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having some experience with building codes and such, a car in a garage with gasoline located less than 2 feet away from living quarters where people might be sleeping at night is not a great situation. I would expect a building inspector to require a rated wall, maybe a 1 or 2 hour rating on that construction in that garage. So I really think it's important to have this reviewed by the fire chief to understand what we're accepting here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. If I look at what the petition is here for, I believe they meet the three prerequisites for granting a variance. But to this gentleman's point here, you know, there's the relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. Well, I think that kind of fits into what this gentleman is asking the question for. I think the board is in support of granting the variance, but I also believe that we want the fire department to do their due diligence, come in and identify if there are any areas of concern. So with that, I would be comfortable with approving this with the condition that the fire department perform a safety review of the current garage. So with that, Mr.
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. Make a motion to approve with the following condition, that a fire inspection be held through fire prevention here in the city of Lowell regarding any safety concerns in the garage.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
So ma'am, you've been approved with conditions. Aaron, should we have them sign the plans or I should say the schedule of the
That
structure?
would be fine, yes, please.
Okay. If you could approach Mr. Clausen and sign those papers.
Ma'am, could you print your name too? Would you mind putting your name too, and please put representing you, that, let us know you the realtor representing the homeowner, please, okay? Thank you.
Okay, our next petition is ZB 2011-19. This is a special permit. The applicant is Bridge Street Holding Company, LLC, at 550 Bridge Street. And the petition is to construct a new 6,200 square foot building for Digital Credit Union and Dunkin' Donuts with drive-through facilities for DCU Bank pursuant to section 12.4G2 of the zoning ordinance. A representative of Bridge Street Holding Company, LLC, please address the board.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm Attorney James Hall, 25 Fletcher Street in Chelmsford.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and I represent the petitioner. And what we have before the board is a defining moment, I should say, in the life of this property. This property was utilized as a Sunoco gas station for 30 to 40 years on the corner of West 6th and Bridge Street, right across from the rectory at St. Michael's Church. My client, the 80 Conway family, owners of many Dunkin' Donut franchises, purchased the property, about 10 years ago for the purpose of putting a gas station and a Dunkin' Donut on the premises. But before they could complete their plans, the city had changed the zoning for the parcel and moved them out of the retail area, so to speak, of Bridge Street into more of a residential area, and they were not permitted to have drive-up windows. So in effect, that killed the gas station and the Dunkin' Donut project for 5 or 6 years until my client found a Digital Credit Union for 5,000 square feet, a very nice quality use for the neighborhood. Once this was discovered and uncovered, the neighbors came together along with the Planning and Development Department to see how this property could be properly utilized. There was no discussion of a Dunkin' Donut drive-up window, and there is none now. There'll be no drive-up window at that Dunkin' Donut premises. But what we're asking this evening for the board to grant a special permit so we can have a drive-up window for a bank as provided in section 12.4G2. The plan that was devised by the city and my client was to go back and rezone this parcel, TMU, which we did back in June at a unanimous city council vote, 9-0, so that that would allow for a drive-up facilities for a bank, not for a restaurant. So the city council approved that. We've gone back for site plan approval at the planning board, and we're halfway through that process. We've met and we're working further with the planning development department. But before we go any further, we have to get a special permit from this board. And that's what we're here this evening. We're not here to approve the project, so to speak, but we want your approval. But this building could be placed with these uses on this premises without any activity of this board. So what the board in a nutshell really is doing is providing a special permit for a drive-up facility for the bank. That's the very narrow issue this evening. All the other stuff is allowed by our zoning board. So I'd like to turn it over to Matt Hammer, who's designed this site, so that he could explain the amenities and the facilities of the site so the board could have a greater sense of what's going on there.
Mr. Hall, if I can just
Yes.
say one thing. So with planning board, you still have not gained approval yet. You're still,
We're still in the process of getting site plan approval.
and is one of those around the traffic study?
There's several issues. I haven't finally, I'm going to talk to Aaron tomorrow. He's indicated he'd like me to call him to further refine what we have to do. There's several other issues. Some major issue is probably traffic. There's an entrance study or a situation that has to be worked out there. Several other matters have already been resolved. We met with the design staff, Aaron and others, last week. So it's in a situation where I feel very confident. Maybe Aaron doesn't, but within a week or so, by the 18th, when the planning board meets, we will have a proposal for the planning board that will gain their approval on the 18th. Just as an aside, we're under a very desperate situation to get these approvals. I didn't want to get into it this time, but we started back in January. We had to rezone the parcel, which takes 4 or 5 months. We entered into agreement with the bank in March to deliver the shell on October 1st, which is impossible at this point. But we have some encouragement that the bank will allow us to extend a reasonable period of time. But if we don't get going and get approval of the planning board by next week, I mean, we'll be into September before we could even begin to start. And we're beginning to lose a grip on the timeline. We get into the winter, delaying the project for possibly 9 months to a year. So yes, it is true that we do have planning board approval. What I'd like to do is have Mr. Hammer address the board, and then I'd like to come back and plead with the board, if the board is affirmative on this decision, to actually vote this tonight, subject to site plan approval next week, or whenever the planning board can see to grant that approval. That will save us actually a month, because the appeal period, as you know, it'll take a week for the clerk to get the special permit. It takes 20 days for the appeal period to run. If that can be eaten up over the next week or two while we're dealing with the planning board, it'll probably save us a month on our construction schedule.
Okay.
But Mr.
Thank you,
Hammer.
sir. Yep.
Good evening. I'm going to give you a little history of the property to begin with. This existing parcel here, which is located at the corner of West 6th and Bridge Street, was formerly zoned as a neighborhood business. And we most recently had obtained unanimous approval through the City Council to have this zone here changed to a TMU, which extends the TMU along Bridge Street, which is shown on the cover sheet here. The existing parcel formerly housed a gas station facility, of which there were pumps in the existing building here. That's all since been removed. There's a clean 21E site assessment that's been done on the property. So that's fully cleared of any environmental issues related to the prior use. Right now, it's just under an acre of land. There's a dirt area here, and these areas all here are bituminous, and it's gently sloping away from Bridge Street towards West Sixth Street. Existing here is a 12-inch wide passageway easement to access the rear portion of this property here at 582 Bridge Street. There's currently curb cuts here in this location to the property, as well as a wide curb cut here at this location, here off of Bridge Street, and then another curb cut that extends off of West Sixth Street. This is the proposed site development plan. Shown here in light orange is the proposed building. And it's going to be divided up into two uses. One for the Dunkin' Donuts, which is going to be 1,200 square feet, which will be located on this front corner. And the remainder of the building here is going to be the Digital Credit Union, which is going to occupy this space here. Shown in gray here is the pavement area, and we're proposing a curb cut here off of Bridge Street, which is going to be entering and exit to access this portion to provide parking here, which is going to be combined with some handicap parking as traditional parking to access the Digital Credit Union building from the side here. And then there's going to be an aisle here, which will provide access to additional parking back here, more for the employees, and overflow parking for the Digital Credit Union back in here, and then a drive-through, which is right through here. This drive-through is not going to be a teller drive-through. It's going to be more it's going to be the ATM style, where there'll just be a machine that will allow transactions to go back and forth with depositing and withdrawals.
Excuse me, is that going to be a single, I'll call it a single drive-up, or?
That's a single, yes.
Okay, thank you.
This single drive-up here will allow for 5 cars to queue if needed. We don't expect that to happen. We do have a traffic report that provided information that at a peak there could possibly be 5 vehicles that could queue here, and we have the allowance for that condition. There's going to be a stop bar on the pavement located here, so that flow between this area here won't be affected. And this traffic's generally going to maneuver out towards West Sixth Street, because it's naturally where that's positioned to go. This area right here is primarily going to be utilized for the Dunkin' Donuts, as well as for the Digital Credit Union. And this building has a combined floor plan so that the Dunkin' Donuts space is integrated in with the Digital Credit Union to allow for, like an internet cafe style atmosphere. So we're going to really see a combination of the two uses here. So the proposed parking in here is really going to be accommodating both uses for that. Through some preliminary meetings that we had with the planning department before we really got started with this project, we had meetings with the neighborhood association as well as the planning department. We came up with a configuration for this entrance which will allow a right-hand turn only here coming into the facility to access the Dunkin' Donut section, as well as a right turn only here. If you're traveling north on Bridge Street, you will only be able to enter through this entrance here, which is a significant distance back from the intersection itself. This traffic in here can go in and out through this area here, and then can go enter and exit onto West Sixth Street here, we anticipate the traffic that's coming off of the pre-existing traffic on Bridge Street will actually end up utilizing West Sixth Street more to then have access to Bridge Street itself. The owners are very conscious of landscaping, so they've created a pretty broad scope landscaping plan. So these areas in green are all going to be vegetated with trees, shade trees, and various types of landscaping, of which a planting schedule is here that depicts what all those landscape plants are. Again, this existing 12-foot wide access way here, which is an easement, is going to remain here, so that this will be unimpeded, unblocked here for the traffic that would be going in behind this building here. So there'll be a fence along here and a curb line for that 12-foot access, as well as a fence in the rear and the side. This area right here is going to have our proposed dumpster location, which will be enclosed with a chain link fence, as well as vertical slats that'll have the same color configuration of the existing building. There will also be a new proposed monument sign at the corner here as well. This is a architect's rendering of what the facility will look like. Here's the Dunkin' Donuts in the corner here, with the digital credit union around the front here and wrapping around the rear to the side. And then this is a view coming down Bridge Street in the southerly direction, where you'll see the digital credit union and then the Dunkin' Donuts on the further down. And that's generally my presentation. I can answer any questions you have.
Yeah, just one or two questions. So when you're exiting the queue, I think you mentioned there'll be some type of signage there. Can you just tell me again what the signage will say if you're exiting the queue?
There's going to be a sign right here that says right turn only. We're proposing a rumble strip here that'll encourage the traffic to travel in the right only as well, even to additional to the signage. There'll be a stop sign located right here.
So is the stop sign for people that want to exit off to West Sixth?
That's correct.
So again, if you're exiting the queue, when you come to the end of the, I guess I'll say the end of the building, is there signage there about straight or left, or can you go in either direction? I guess maybe is my question.
You can go in either direction. If you
Okay.
wanted to wrap yourself around the whole facility, you could.
Yeah, okay.
There'll also be a strip on the pavement that'll say stop
Yep.
as well here to provide some additional.
And the queuing for the 5 cars, sometimes, I really can't see it on there, but will the 5 cars, will they basically cover the back of the building? Will they extend beyond the back of the building if there were 5?
No, they will not.
Okay,
Excuse me, they will extend beyond the facade of the building here,
okay,
but not beyond the landscaped
okay,
island.
yeah, okay. So you'll have it buffered out enough that, yeah,
There's actually a shade tree proposed here as well to kind
Okay.
of buffer that a little bit as well.
okay. I think at this point, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
One thing I wanted to add is we're proposing a whole line of shade trees along here to add some additional shading to the sidewalk area as well as that side of the property. So that's going to be a nice feature you'll find on West Sixth Street.
At this point, I'm going to open it up to the board first, and then we'll open it up to the public. Kevin, do you have any questions at this point?
I don't have any questions, just comments, I guess, that I think this is a well-needed project for that area. I've been driving by this site for years. I had family that lived right around the corner and just waiting for something to happen. So I'm happy to see it happening. I had a couple concerns as far as traffic, but once reviewing the plans today and being over at the site a little bit, I'm glad to see most of it's being pushed out onto West Sixth Street. I think it's a great proposal for the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Carrie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one question as it relates to the entrance to the property as you related coming southerly towards the city on Bridge Street, up towards the front end of the lot. Is there going to be any signage or any parking lot striping to indicate? Or is that just going to be like a two-lane entrance and exit setup?
There'll be
noticed
2
the
lanes
arrows.
here, but there'll be a stop sign for the exit.
There'll be a stop sign for the exit?
Yes.
And as you exit the queue, you're just gonna have a painted line on the ground itself indicating stop. Is that gonna be flat or is that gonna be raised?
Here?
No, as you exit the queue of the drive-up teller, you've got to stop. Is that just gonna be a flat painted surface? Or is that gonna be
There'll be a stop strip at the end.
just a stop strip?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there will be vertical granite curbing there. So,
No, I look at the design, the plight of the property for years has been overwhelming, and I understand the need of the petitioner to get this project going. I do particularly want to say how strongly in favor I am of all the shading and the trees to bring that some green space to that area outside of all the concrete, so I do support the project.
Thank you, Gary. Vesna?
Mr. Chairman, I have no question or comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Corey?
Yes, you, Mr. Chairman. Now, will the Dunkin' Donuts be doing any cooking at this location? Will there be a kitchen in there, or?
I do not believe so.
Okay, so just a satellite, more or less? Yeah, typically
correct,
they
yeah.
cook at one kitchen, but yes, I'll tell you, it looks great, honest to God, what's going on here. It's been dormant a long, long time over there, and I will comment further. I see Ms. Page is here from the neighborhood group. I'm interested in hearing her input, so I will comment further, Mr. Chairman, after we open up to the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to first ask, does Conway 80 own or operate any other facilities in Lowell?
Yes, they do. They operate probably about 15 of them throughout the greater Lowell area. They have one up next to University of Mass, right there on the corner on University Avenue for one. They have one out in Chelmsford Street, just coming into Chelmsford, and they're fairly well-known operators and been going at it since 1968.
And I believe the existing facilities that you do have are extremely well-maintained and really have some beautiful landscaping. So I think we should have a lot of confidence going forward here with your organization that this will be a successful project.
Well, thank you very much.
I had a couple of questions. The drive-in parking queuing space for the cars, you're showing the cars roughly 18 feet apart or 18 feet on center? I know the average car it doesn't have to be 18 feet long, but I think that's what we typically have for a depth of a parking space. It seems a little tight. Hopefully cars are getting smaller, but I think that your spacing's a little tight.
I'd like to add the peak called for 5.
I understand that.
Yeah, and most of the time there's going to be 1 or 2.
I understand that. I just think we just need to be clear on what we're going to be expecting there. If we do have pickup trucks, you know, that kind of thing, they get to be long. And then the last one I have is the exit or entrance off of West 6th Street. You basically have 4 elements of car traffic converging in a very tight and sloped spot. I think you have roughly a 5% slope there coming in, and you have about 4, vehicle lanes converging at that spot.
That's correct.
It's a little complicated.
I'd also like to add that the proposed site use is bylaws call for 10 vehicles, and we're providing more parking that's required for this. I think the site shows a lot more than what actually may be happening here, but this area in here we're anticipating is going to be
Employee.
most of the time for employees,
Excellent.
open, so.
I think that if there could be any, requirement or suggestion with labeling spaces or something, that would be helpful, because I think you're right. As long as you can kind of quiet the visitor spaces in that area, you'll mitigate that convergence of 4 vehicles trying to exit that sloped area at the same time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add that in the morning, much of the traffic is coming down Bridge Street.
Right.
So the entrances coming off of Bridge Street are going to be ideal for that situation. So that, I just wanted to add that to your comment. Even though West 6th Street isn't utilized as much, so I think it's going to be easy to navigate their way through into West 6th Street.
Okay. I just think that this is a great project, and I really think we should support it. I think you've done a great job on the site and the building design. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Based on Dennis's comment, though, we've had a few projects with drive-ups, and this is something that this board, I know, since I've been on, we've probably had 4 to 5 that we've entertained. There's always been, I won't say an issue, but there's always concern about the queuing and if you were to maximize, but it's my understanding for a bank, if it's almost an ATM setup, people are using it to pretty much get in and out as fast as possible. I'm assuming you can also do other transactions. I know some of the banks, you can actually make deposits, which my experience has been, sometimes you get stuck behind somebody that's making a deposit and it seems like they're there forever filling out the paperwork. But I would have to say, at least in this situation, even if you had the 5 cars maxed out, or even trucks, to Dennis's point, you're not backfilling into a street. I would probably agree with you that you provided enough lane width there, and also backup, that obviously the bank doesn't want all kinds of cars backed up for people trying to get in and out to do their regular banking. So I feel comfortable with that. So with that said, I'm going to open it up, the public hearing. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor?
Good evening. My name is Anne Marie Page. I live at 26 Fremont Street, and I'm the president of the Centerville Neighborhood Group. And we are in full support of this project. This has been quite a workout. We'd like to see it overdone and finished, and we'd like to be looking at that handsome building instead of what we're looking at now. There's quite a history here. It was a Shell gas station, that came down. Then it was going to be a Dunkin' Donuts, a Mini Mart, a pump your own gas, which I don't do, and D'Angelo. That was like never going to happen. That was like a nightmare. The Conway 80 family has spent a lot of money and a lot of time, and they have worked very hard with the city and with the neighborhood group to see that this is a grand project. Our fear was a drive-through for Dunkin'. Not that we wouldn't like it. I mean, I'd love to be able to jump in my bathrobe and run down through and get a cup of coffee and nobody see me. But it isn't going to work because it's a very dangerous intersection for the children. At the same time of the morning, we all want a cup of coffee. So they gave up that, and that was a big sacrifice. The digital credit union is fine. I live at my drive-through at my bank, and I think the most I've ever seen, and that was when they were training a new teller, was 4 cars in a line. So we don't see a problem. The architects came, planners came, met with the neighborhood group over a month ago, went through everything, answered all the neighborhood questions, the drive-in, the drive-out. We see no problem at all with the drive-through for that bank. We know they're not asking for a drive-through for the Dunkin' Donuts. That would have been a problem. So we are very happy. We're hoping you're going to hurry up and get it done. And we already know Dunkin' Donuts keep their property neat and clean, their grass cut, beautiful gardens. We don't need big tall trees. We're putting a bank there. We like them low, nice looking, neat, clean, low. And time is of the essence. We've got to get going. We want to see this done before the winter comes, because we all know how nasty they are here in Lowell. And we're talking jobs. So we are hoping, as a neighborhood group, and the reason I'm down here on this lovely night is so that we can encourage you to pass this, get them up and running, and if we had our way, we'd have that backhoe in there tomorrow. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you, Mrs. Page. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone here to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Any other comments from the board? Okay. Well, I think I can, you get something else?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, yeah. You know, this project, as we all know, I stated earlier, this is a problem that's been vacant and an eyesore for quite some time, and I commend the petitioner, the 80 Conway family, for working with the neighborhood as good as they have, and the city of Lowell. I mean, normally it's not normal protocol to approve without planning board approval, but a project of this magnitude, in my eyes, deserves an exception. So I would like to see it moved off the floor tonight, Mr. Chairman, but there were several issues with the planning board. I don't know what's been ironed out and what hasn't. That's what we need to figure out. But if the board is in agreement, I would like to move it off the floor tonight with an approval with the conditions necessary. Thank you very much.
So I guess the only other thing I'll add, and this will be to DPD, Aaron, are there any other boards besides planning that will be entertaining this site?
No, it's just a planning board, site plan review for the planning board, and then the zoning board of appeals for the drive-through. I suspect that at a later date, you'll see a special permit, at the very least, for signage, but that would be a separate, it's not a part of this application. But otherwise, that's all board or commission approvals that's required.
So do we need to condition our vote around planning board acceptance, or do we, can we go without planning board?
Well, the zoning ordinance requires that in the case a project goes through site plan review and a zoning board review, whether it's a special permit or a variance,
right.
And the special permit or variance needs to incorporate the conditions placed on site plan approval. The issue is that if you take a vote to approve with conditions, whether it's on the condition that site plan is approved, the vote's already taken, and I'm not sure how those conditions would be automatically incorporated into the decision for the special permit.
Right, so special permit, we don't need to be conditioned around planning board, is that what you're saying?
No, well, if the site plan is approved with conditions,
yep.
Those conditions would need to be automatically incorporated into a special permit approval. If the planning board hasn't taken a vote to approve or deny or approve with conditions.
Okay, so we need conditions.
Right.
Need a condition, yep.
Okay.
Okay. Which is why I wanted to ask Attorney Hall that at the very beginning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak at this time. I think the board could say that their vote is conditioned upon planning board approval.
Correct.
That's all, approval, not what their conditions are. They're going to have 20, 30, 40 conditions. Yeah. Landscaping, traffic, this, that, and everything. Just the fact that after they go through all that tedious process with the professionals, approved it. So the condition is it has to be approved. We could not go forward without their approval anyways. And I can't emphasize enough, it's so important. We've heard Mrs. Page talk about it, but it really is a fact. A lot of times attorneys stand up here and they beg for time and all of this, but we're under great pressure because of the contract we have with the bank. Mm-hmm. We're under great pressure if we don't get the vote tonight to up against the weather in November and December and street openings and all these problems. So I implore the board members, if you're in favor of this project, to please vote it upon condition of the planning board approval, and that's all. Thank you.
Well, that's the way I understand it, and if there's anything else to correct the way I understand it, that's the way I understand it. We're just going to condition this around planning board approval.
If I could add to the language in the ordinance actually specifically says that in the case there is site plan approval and zoning board relief, again, whether it's variance or special permit, the relief needs to incorporate the specific conditions that the planning board have placed on approval for the site plan.
Okay, so it's approval and conditions?
Well, your vote would already be made, so the only possible way to incorporate the conditions that I can think of is that there would be an administrative amendment to your decision after the planning board has voted to approve.
Okay.
That's the only way I could think of doing it, unless the planning board has already made their decision.
Okay, so you,
I can explain that a little bit more. I mean, I'm trying to think creatively to help accommodate the concerns.
so do we cover all bases by saying planning board approval and conditions, or do we have to just say planning board conditions?
You could say either, but there would still need to be an administrative amendment so that the conditions themselves are actually incorporated into your decision. What I'm saying is that we can't, as administrative staff, just at a later date, add conditions to your approval. If conditions or an alteration to your approval, the board's approval, a special permit, whether it's a site plan change, a use change, whatever, that would have to be coordinated through an administrative amendment, which would be before the Zoning Board of Appeals. It may not require a public hearing, just be put on the agenda. It could be put on for the 25th, where the Zoning Board would review, as a hypothetical, the planning board approves on the 18th a site plan with conditions. The zoning board could make an administrative amendment to include those conditions of approval with your approval.
So do each of the board members have to sign the administrative amendments?
It would be an amendment to the
Okay.
You could sign it as, on behalf of the board as the chairman. Just as you would with any other approval.
I think so, yeah. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I hope I got it right, but I'll make a motion to approve the following condition, that the petitioner adopt all the conditions set forth by the planning board, along with planning board approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Need a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Sir, you've been approved with conditions. Aaron, do you have the final plans that he can sign, or do you want him to sign one of ours?
I don't believe that we have the revised version at this point. We don't need them.
Okay.
They're going to change anyway.
Okay. Good luck, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, board members. We appreciate all of your efforts tonight. We really do. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you and good luck. And thank you to the neighborhood group as well, Mrs. Page. Thank you.
Our next petition is ZB-2011-20. This is for a special permit for signs. The applicant is Jayesh Shah. The property is located at 424 Chelmsford Street, and the petition is to eternally illuminate one wall sign for a new Subway restaurant pursuant to section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Jay Shah. I'm here for internally illuminated sign for Subway franchise that I plan to build at 424 Chelmsford Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. The location is situated in the industrial and retail zone, with most other businesses have the illuminated signs. Subway is the world's largest well-renowned restaurant chain and one of the most recognized brands for fresh foods and ingredients around the world. It provides high-quality, low-cost foods to adults and children with great tasting sandwiches and salads. Subway logo and signage is mandated by Subway and most vital part of running a subway operation. Like McDonald's Golden Arc, it plays an important role in its recognition from a distance. I have built 4 subways in the past, including one in Lowell, Chelmsford, Wilmington, and Framingham, providing employment to 30+ people. The economy as it stands today, with so many people unemployed, including myself becoming the latest victim of last Friday, losing my job as a project manager in a high-tech, I'll be able to provide up to 10 jobs in city of Lowell and be able to support my family. Therefore, I urge you, gentlemen, to grant this permit to me, which is required to start this franchise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We received comments back from Rachel Kisker, representing DPD, regarding the sign you want to put up, and the city endorses the subway sign that you want to put up. You've met all the requirements there. One other thing I'd like to add, have you owned any other locations in Lowell?
So I used to own 4. I built one on Middlesex Street, right across from Taco Bell.
Okay.
This was ex-Aladdin, if you remember. There was a problem there. Yeah, I
Right.
built the subway there, but I got out of it after my son joined Army. He's a medical student in Army actually right now, so I said I'm going to get rid of it, yeah.
Okay. As far as the parking lot goes, what is your understanding that the owner of the building is regarding the parking requirements? As you know, there's certain requirements that a restaurant has to entertain. One of the comments we have is regarding to the parking lot actually being striped going forward. Do you have any comments on that, sir?
Yes, sir. I had a conversation with the landlord today. He will do it, provided this is approved, because it is all subject to your approval today, sir. So he will do the striping and take care of the premise.
Okay. So the striping would be for the whole parking area,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. It will be done.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add at this point, sir?
No, sir. I think I appreciate your support, and I hope I can start this business soon.
Okay.
And
Thank you, sir.
get myself and my family back in taking care of each other.
Okay. I'm going to open this up to the public hearing. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of the petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Kevin?
Through you, Commissioner, I don't see any issues with the signage going on that facility. I think it'll be a welcome addition to that area. My only comment, I guess, just for clarification is, above the door, it seemed like it might be tight space-wise. I didn't take out a tape measure, but the sign shows 30 inches, but driving by it, it looked like you might be under the overhang or things like that, just for...
No, I think it should be fine.
Okay. That was my only comment with it. Other than that, I'm in support. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the petitioner. What will be the hours of operation for your business?
This will be from 7 till 10, 7 in the morning till 10. We have a requirement of 98 hours to keep the subway open minimum per week.
What hours of illumination are you requesting?
This will be from 7 till 12, and basically dawn's time, evening time. So it will be probably 7 till midnight, and then it will be shut off.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The operation hour is 7 to 10. Is that 7 days a week or?
Yes, sir.
I'm in full support of this petition, Mr. Chairman, given the facts that Ms. Kisker from DPD have no objections to it. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, thank you. Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a problem with the sign, especially in that district. It's mostly retail, if not all, and my only question is, do you think it's necessary to put a condition on to restripe the parking lot?
Yes, I believe we should condition it, but even with the fact that the gentleman spoke to the
Landlord. He has
The
assured me
landlord
today, sir,
and-
yeah.
yep.
In fact,
Okay.
it is in my business interest to have it, sir. So he's going to do it, and he has assured me today. So there is no
Great.
really condition required. He will be able to, he will do it, and I'll make sure he does it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
This does get approved. We'll make that a condition, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we should support this. I want to call attention that the signage that we're getting to approve tonight has LED lighting, and it'll only be drawing 96 watts of power, which is pretty amazing for a sign this large. And I think the condition should be specific to the 45 spaces that we're going to see striped. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, that's to the portion of the spaces. That's why I wanted to get an understanding of your agreement, not just for your location, but all the locations at that plaza, that the condition will be around the 45 parking
Right, sir.
spots.
Now, the situation here is so that almost all other businesses have takeout only. People come to liquor store, pick up their drink, walk out from there, or other places, is convenience store and a takeout Chinese restaurant. So nobody really sits there. Usually they come in, they go out. Only my place, I have a sitting arrangement, sir.
Correct. Okay, I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve with the following condition, that the petitioner provide and restripe a total of 45 parking spaces.
Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Sir, you've been approved with conditions. Wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman. Thank you, board members.
That was a good move. Not this whole thing, throw away the whole, we're getting near the end. Next petition is ZB 2011-21. Close the glasses. This is for a special permit. The applicant is K&M Land Consultants. The property is located at 640 Lakeview Avenue, and the petition is to construct a 48,000 square foot addition with associated utilities and parking to maintain and expand the existing business use pursuant to section 12.4 of the zoning ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Yes, sir.
Kenneth Laney of K&M Land Consultants, representing the applicant this evening, which is 1 and L Street LLC. Just a point of clarification, the size of the structure being proposed is only 4,800 square feet, as opposed to 48,000.
Is that what I said? Well,
That's
why the
okay, no
glasses
problem.
went-
I just didn't want everybody to freak out because it was an
That's why the
enormous
glasses
building.
went on
Yeah.
for a minute, then they came off.
That would change the whole spectrum of the project. But as you'd stated, we're before you this evening to do mostly a kind of a bookkeeping cleanup for this parcel, which is located at 1 and L Street Extension, as well as 640 Lakeview Avenue. The property is better known as the Federal Carpet Building, and you might as well be aware of the fact that it's right on the corner of the Aiken Street and VFW highways. The structure's been there since 1990, when it was originally erected after, I believe, the city of Lowell sold the property to the current owner of that piece. What we're proposing here is to add the 4,800 square foot addition so that the business can expand its carpet use, which currently utilizes some of the parking area for large jobs. There's a couple of storage trailers on site that, would then be better utilized inside this warehouse addition. The structure itself will be accompanied with some additional pavement, 13 additional parking spaces, and a significant amount of landscaping and drainage improvements to the site. Most of the drainage improvements occur in the new parcel area, which is being constructed mostly on the Lakeview Avenue site. A new entrance will be introduced on the Lakeview Avenue property to allow both in and out traffic, and we will be providing a country-style drainage system on the property so that we're avoiding the installation of any structures. Currently, the site itself sits within the floodplain. We have been before the City of Lowell Conservation Commission on one prior meeting. We also are before them again on the 13th of this month, 2 days from today. And we also appeared in front of the Planning Board for site plan approval on the 20th of June and obtained an approval from the Planning Board at that time. So we're before you this evening to request this special permit to allow the continued use of the carpet retail that's on the site, and I'd be glad to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, sir, and apologize for the 48,000.
No, that's okay, no problem.
So now the glasses come on.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the heat.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to open it up to the board first, see if we have any comments or questions. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, my only question sitting at the site was deliveries. Do they take deliveries of carpets in full trailers? Do you know how they take them into the facility?
Yes, sir. They are full 18-wheeler trailers. Currently, the process for deliveries is they come in off of the Annell Street entrance, which is currently the only entrance and exit on the parcel. And what they have to do is pretty much do somewhat of a three-point turn. They pull up into the area of parking along the edge of the front of the building where it's almost heading out towards VFW Highway there, and then they have to back the trailer all the way down into the end of the parking area by the building. So that will be corrected in this scenario where the vehicles will now be able to enter in. There is a significant spot between the new addition building and where the proposed parking starts that measures well over 40 feet in distance. That will provide a much better area for unloading and loading of carpet.
Okay. So it can pull through. What are they doing in the facility? Is it storage?
Mostly storage. Currently, right now, when there's large jobs with significant significant carpet sizes, sometimes some of that carpet actually has to be cut outside.
Yeah, they were doing it today, actually.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, there you go. So the purpose of this building will allow them to have an open span inside. They'll be allowed to utilize the interior of that building to shape and cut their carpet as necessary, more so just to keep the facility work inside.
Okay. And then my only last question, I guess, is they have current storage trailers on the site. Is the intent to keep those on site, or will this take the place of?
Yep, the intent is there's a storage trailer that's actually right behind the structure currently. It's actually got a big, I believe, federal carpet kind of sign on it. The intent would be to keep that one trailer.
Okay.
I believe their hope is to kind of shy away from the other trailers that are on the site.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
I have no questions.
Vesna?
No question at this time.
Corey?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. I'll comment after we open it up to the public.
Okay, Dennis?
I think I'm pretty satisfied with the proposal here. I think that it's a great idea to grant this expansion here. I think that we want to see this kind of thing happening in this location. Thank you.
Okay, so currently there's 26 existing parking.
That is correct, sir. There's
Going to add another 13?
That is correct, and I believe that the requirement for the site with the use that's on the property, Mr. Chairman, is 14 spaces is required, and we would end up with a total of 38 spaces on the property.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many employees, full-time employees are there?
I believe that typically he has somewhere between 5 to 7 employees on site.
Okay. And you also answered a question I had, Kevin had asked you what the proposal was for the new building. And I also had the same question around the trailers that are there. I think there's 3 on site right now, if I counted correctly.
That is correct.
So I'll say that when you're entering the site, the 2 that are on the left,
Yep.
I guess the plan would be to have them,
Exactly.
and you still want to leave the 3rd one for the purpose of,
That is correct. I think that currently what he has is that trailer, should it need to be used, he could possibly move it around onto the site, utilize it for deliveries if necessary. I'm not sure how functional it is currently, but I think that there would be a possibility that he'd like to have that ability in the future.
one observation I made, and you made comment to it, was an L Street being a one-way street. And when I went into the site today, for instance, I was out there a couple of times, but I went back today. When you're coming back out of the site, there's nothing that tells you you can't take a left turn. So I was just curious, for somebody who was there maybe for the first time, it's just an observation I made. Are there any plans to put up some type of signage? Has the owner talked to the city just to see if they can put something up? Frankly, I was a little bit amazed that there was nothing that said, no left turn. Because with a one-way street, obviously people coming off Aiken Ave there, they're traveling at a pretty good rate of speed coming
Absolutely.
off,
I think that's a wonderful suggestion. We hadn't proposed it under the site plan. I don't believe that it was a condition of the planning board either. I don't think it actually even came up. So again, a great catch, and we would be definitely willing to put up a, right turn only sign on there. If you've noticed, what we're going to do is, one of the comments that was issued by DPD was that some of the parking spaces themselves, as they're striped, actually fall on the city's right-of-way. So one of the things we were going to do was restripe the front of the parking area so that we could get our striping onto our own property, and as part of that, put in a small landscaped island in the front there, along that front portion of the property along an L Street. And I believe that what we could do is erect a right turn only sign right at the end of that island. That would work out fine.
Okay, again, I'd like to see that
Yeah, that's
as
fine.
a condition.
Absolutely.
I think it would be helpful for both, especially new customers come in there, they might just come off of the Aiken Ave area and just think they can automatically take that left.
Yeah, it's definitely a wonderful safety idea.
And that's a rear exit, Mr. Chairman?
That would be an L Street.
On an L Street, entering on an L Street.
If you were exiting the site onto an L Street extension, what it is an L Street's actually a one-way. It heads out towards Lakeview Avenue.
Right, okay.
So what we would do is place a sign right at that exit, utilizing a right turn only sign.
Okay.
So that customers leaving wouldn't accidentally take a left and be faced with the oncoming traffic from the VFW highway.
Yeah, because I don't think you're doing anything with the, as far as striping goes, you're not doing like 2 lanes or anything for that
Not at all,
enter
sir.
and entrance.
Not at all, sir.
Okay. All right, well, I think that would be a condition I'd like to have, and sounds like the petitioner is embracing it, so that's good. Do you have anything else you want to add before I open it up to the public, sir? Guess not. Anyone here to like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone here to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition to this petition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody else have any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment that I think this is a great project. We have a building that's nearly, not quite, but doubling the size of existing structure, so that's always a good sign. So with that being said, I'll make a motion to approve with the following condition, that the petitioner install a right turn only sign entering onto an L Street extension.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a roll call.
If I may just jump in, this is another one of those situations we were just talking about for 550 Bridge. However, in this case, the planning board did issue an approval with conditions. So if I could respectfully ask maybe an additional condition that the planning board conditions be incorporated into this? I believe that's how it's typically.
Vesna was pointing that out to me while there was discussion going on, but the planning board's already approved their portion of it, correct?
Right. So in that case, that with the ordinance,
Just adopt the
Right.
planning board decision with additional conditions that, as Mr. Chairman indicated, that no left turn on Anno Street because, right turn
Right.
only.
Okay, well, the second condition will be to adopt all the conditions set forth by the planning board.
all right, thanks.
So
Mr. Bailey?
approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approved with conditions.
So you've been approved unanimously. If you could step forward and sign the plans, please, and we wish you the best of luck.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time this evening.
And our final petition of the evening is ZB 2011-22. This is for a special permit, and the applicant is Sisters of Charity of Ottawa, Inc. The property is located at 983 Varnum Avenue, and the petition is to remove a substantial amount of material from the site for the purpose of regrading to prepare for future construction pursuant to Section 7.5 of the zoning ordinance. If there's representatives of the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa, please address the board.
Thank you very much. I'm Naomi Prendergast. I'm the CEO of Duval Life and Wellness Community, and I feel like I've been here before. It's always nice to see you all. But let me tell you why we're here tonight. About 6 months ago, we concluded a study that was done by a group of consultants whom we had retained to take a look and to see whether or not the community would need an affordable assisted living community. As you probably know, there is no assisted living anywhere in Lowell, and there is no affordable assisted living in the community. And so the study did come back that the area could support about 60 apartments of assisted living, particularly one that would be affordable in nature. And so over the past 6 months, we've been looking to see how we could accomplish this. And based on our own review internally, we believe that this is a project we would like to proceed with ideally construction starting about 3 years from now in 2014. The reason for the delay are actually several items. One has to do with raising some funds out in the community. Another has to do with, as you probably know, we're currently in construction phase of another project, and we want to make sure that that building gets a very good start. However, there also is something else that we would need to do. We have identified a parcel of property on our campus that would be absolutely perfect. But there is considerable amount of earth, which is what was referred to as material, that really needs to be removed from the site in order to prepare it. And right now we have, if you will, the perfect storm. We have an organization that is interested in obtaining this earth from us, and we also, as we've already mentioned, are currently under construction. And so we believe that to go ahead and start removing the earth now, even though it is a bit in advance of when we hope to begin construction, would allow us to achieve what we need to do with the removal of the material in in a way that is not as difficult for either our campus or frankly for the community around us as it would be disruptive in the upcoming years. So that is the crux of our request tonight, and we have with us Matt Kittner, our Director of Building Improvements, and also John Noonan.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm here in support of the project, obviously, and well, it's not a project yet, but in support, of removing, the fill. I brought John Noonan, the civil engineer here. He's here to kind of give the details of what we want to do. There was an email that went around that I sent to Aaron, which I believe you all received, which kind of addressed his concerns. We did not receive any other comments from any other departments as of 4 o'clock today when I left the office, so I'm not sure if there was anything else that needed to be addressed. Okay, so I'll turn it over to John.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yep.
Good evening. John Noonan with Noonan McDowell. We're land surveyors and civil engineers. And what Duville is requesting to do is to regrade the area on the western side of the now under construction 55-bed assisted or physical therapy unit or transitional care. The area is being graded so we create a meadow that is about the same elevation of the parking lot that's up above on the same level, which would be the second floor of the transitional care building. So we're just proposing just to grade it down at a 3-to-1, level it out, and then carry that back to where our, at this point, conceptual building access would be located. So Duville's architects had worked up a conceptual plan that shows the building in this location with just a front entrance and a main entrance to the rear with parking. So you can see that our grading pretty much follows where the future driveway would be located to the rear, and this would also be used for our main activity for borrowing out the area on the side. At the time we did file for this permit, I also submitted a stormwater pollution prevention plan. At that time, the permit was filed with EPA. We did receive our permit, and I did give it copies to the board tonight, so they have copies of that executed permit from the EPA. But we would be doing this in 2 phases according to that plan. Our phase line is about here, so we would basically do the back area first. Once that was completed, then move forward and do the front area. So it would be done in 2 phases. Once we got to the grades that we wish to achieve, we would then loom it, seed it, and make it into a meadow field. And that's what's currently proposed.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do you have anything else you want to add,
Nope.
sir? Okay. We're going to open it up to the board. Kevin?
I don't have any comments at this time, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay. Gary?
I have no comments, Mr. Chairman.
Vesna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you remove the grade of the land, I mean, when you remove it, put on a truck and stuff, what time do you do that? What time you begin to do that?
We would begin that process probably within the next month, pending approval, and then we would be completed probably within a couple of months.
What's the hours until the
Oh, it would
truck
be during the
loading
week,
and
in the week time, business hours between, say, 7 and 3 o'clock.
between
7 a.m. and 3
7
p.m.
a.m. to 3
Yep.
o'clock?
Standard business hours is what they run.
How many trucks would you anticipate it loading, and taking out of the land?
Well,
from
it
the
is a
property?
substantial amount of fill. I can't tell you exactly how many trucks there'll be. The trucking is going to be provided by the receiver of the dirt. So I would anticipate they would probably, at any given time, maybe have 6 trucks, making round trips. The dirt is possibly going to go to the Tingsboro Bridge project. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. But we have spoke to the owner of the construction company that's doing that project, and the route of trucks will be down Old Ferry Road, out onto 110, 113, and down that route. They would not go through any back streets to get there.
And did you have a chance to meet with or spoke to the Pawtuckaville Neighborhood Association?
Absolutely, yes. We wouldn't do anything on our property without seeking, their blessing for it first. We went down there, we told them about it. They were interested in, more about the future project than they were about the dirt removal.
Right.
But we really don't have any details to give on this project because we're in the very beginning stages of trying to raise the money to pay for the design. We have a concept which basically just gave us an idea of what the land removal would need to be done because all of our buildings connect to one another to provide our services. We need the elevation to be kind of consistent. And it's also going to work out as far as our building height, because if we take the earth down, that'll help keep the elevation of the building down as well.
Did you have a chance to share with them at least the tentative plans as to what's going to come in there after the removal of dirt?
We have not, but we will go back and see them again as we start to develop our plan and, share in their comments and their concerns. We always work with our community.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Corey?
No comments now, Mr. Chairman. I will speak after we open up to the public. Thank you.
Okay, Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions. The grade change that you're seeking at the property line, what's the bottom toe of the slope and the top of at the highest points, please?
Well, it does vary because the elevation along the property line varies. It goes from 84 at this location up to about, I believe it's 92 up in here, so there is a change. The bottom basically stays at the same elevation of around 69 or 70, and then we go up to that either 84 or 92 elevation.
And then at the steepest point, where it goes from basically 69 or 70 to 92, what's your slope there? Is that a 4-to-1 slope?
Everything through this area is graded at a 3-to-1 slope.
A 3-to-1 slope?
Correct.
Oh, so you'll be stabilizing that with some mat and planting it?
That's in our stormwater pollution plan, correct.
Have you done any studies on groundwater and how this slope change will affect the groundwater?
This whole area is basically an outwash, and so it's all medium, the coarse sands, and the water elevation or water table, whether in here or over here or out in front, pretty much follows that same elevation because water moves so quickly through sand, it just flows down to that one level rather rapidly. When we were up in this hill, we dug in this location here before it was borrowed out to create the lower grade. We were up in the hill in this location digging down. We had to get down to here with the boring rig because I couldn't do it with the backhoe. So basically the groundwater elevation is, I think we're probably about elevation, can't read a number right now, but it's quite a ways down. I wouldn't expect it to be following the topography if that's your question.
I understand, but once you do a cut, you potentially would be getting some groundwater weeping through the cut?
Not necessarily, not with the cuts we have, because we're only going from 7 to 82, that's 12 feet. Over here, even if we're down about 25 feet, we still may not hit water table.
So
because even at this location, I am still 10 feet above the elevation down below. And that's below the ground level. So I would expect the water table to be about 7 feet below what it is over here. This is 12 feet higher than that.
But you don't have any data recording
not
the
right
groundwater at the toe of the slope?
No, we do not.
Okay. And you don't have a quantity of the material that you're removing?
Yes, we do have a rough quantity. There is about 100,000 yards of material that could come out of that hill. We're not proposing to take all of that. Right now, the taker of the dirt is looking for somewhere between 60 and 70,000 yards. So we'll take as much as we can until we get to a point where we want to leave a buffer of trees between our neighbors. The only neighbors that would come into play here would be the folks on Anson Street and the one neighbor that's on Varnum Ave in the corner, which we've been working with them already on our existing project. So we plan on leaving a buffer of trees for now at this time because we see no need to, get anybody excited about anything. We're only taking some dirt away at this point. However, when we do come back in the future, when we do have a design, we may have to take some more of that slope back towards our property line to fit everything in, if it's necessary. At that time, we'll have a landscaping plan and whatever is needed to, keep the neighbors happy and make the project, a success. We did do some test pits on the existing project during, the design of that, which is a similar elevation we dug into that hill. And, groundwater was deep, very, very deep. And it's been that way consistently around the property, so I don't anticipate any issues with groundwater. If we have groundwater at the elevation we're bringing that to, we would already be in the water in the building. It's just across the driveway.
I think you're right. So you're looking at sort of a phased kind of plan here to remove 60,000 cubic yards and maybe come back at a later date, not this year, sometime in the 2-year time frame, and remove the remaining 40,000 cubic yards?
No, actually, what we would be doing is we would remove the material that we, could get rid of for now. Stabilize the site, have everything grow back, grassy, meadowy, type thing. When we start the construction of the actual building, we would remove the rest of the fill. This will certainly, minimize the impact of the construction, because by the time we do this, three years down the road, everything that's under construction now will be finished, curb in place, landscaping growing. So we're trying to minimize the amount of trucking over all the new roads and parking lots and areas while we have a lot of occupancy going on in that area. So this was a great opportunity for us. We wouldn't even bothered if it wasn't such a good opportunity. It's going to put us in a good position so that in the future it'll be a lot more minimized impact to us and the neighborhood as well. They've already been seeing trucks, they've already been seeing activity. This is just going to be a little bit more. I don't think they'll really notice it as much. Then if we come back in 3 years and all of a sudden there's a ton of trucks driving up and down, Old Ferry and at the lights, then they'll be in shock.
I think you have a great facility up there, and I think you've done a great job of maintaining community relations, and it just seems to be a very big success story. And I think especially the idea of assisted living that's affordable is a tremendous asset to the community. So I just think we need to be cautious about how the whole thing, and it sounds like you have an approach that makes sense. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. While everybody was kind of asking their questions, I was reviewing what was handed out to us tonight. And sometimes I'm a speed reader and sometimes I'm not. But what I was trying to do was tie this in with some of the comments we got from DPD. And it looks like you're in a process of at least addressing some of the, I'll say, comments that the city had. For instance, around, you're meeting with the abutters. One of the things we talked about was, noise, dust, vibration that's happening. It sounds like, if I read it correctly, you're putting up some type of screening or a barrier to at least assist with, I assume, to knock down any dust or pollutants in the air as best you can. So I think that's good. The other thing was the landscape plan, obviously. I think you mentioned the landscape plan is kind of preliminary at this point. One of the things that was mentioned was, as far as a future building going up, where exactly on the drawings would that be?
This area right in here is the conceptual location
Yeah, that's
right now.
very, very, very conceptual.
Yep.
What we had to do is we had to kind of lay a building out to understand where we would have to take the dirt from. So this was the best kind of, scenario, we could come up with. Whether this will work exactly at the, that orientation, we're not sure. But we will know that we will be at the right elevation in that area to place a building in any orientation.
Right. So, obviously, you got to consider the existing structures that you'll have. You're soon to complete your in-process project right now.
Correct.
I think there was also a comment, it has to be at a level that they're all accessible to one another.
Exactly.
So they'll all be linked, which, makes total sense to me. Let's see, the other thing I had was, okay, in Anson Street, Varnum Ave, I believe when you were here before us, for the existing building that's going up. I believe there was one abutter that did show up, and it's, obviously, I don't see that person here tonight. I would assume you've been working with them pretty closely. We haven't received any complaints to date that I'm aware of, so. The other thing is, when a CEO shows up, I think you've been here for all the meetings. I think it shows that you're on top of what's going on. I think you want to be a good neighbor. I think you're trying to mitigate as much as possible. I think it's great you can find somebody that can use the usable soil for something else further down the road that obviously should be a cost benefit to everybody, hopefully. So with that said, do you have anything else you want to offer at this point?
No, I do not.
So I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anyone here to like to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone here to like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Any other comments from the board members?
Apparently not, Mr. Chairman, so that being said, I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, I think we have to include, I believe, a couple of conditions. Now, as far as the landscape plan, so maybe I'll defer, Aaron, to you. If the petition is to basically to remove with the anticipation of doing something down the road, is a landscape plan required at this point based on they're not here to submit, you know, a new structure, I guess? Is that really necessary at this point?
There's, yeah, so let me just kind of give you a little background on the comments. My comments were essentially broken down to two elements. One was the existing landscape plan that was generally approved through site plan and the special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the current building that's under construction. My first comment was that landscape plan seems to be that it would be significantly changed with the removal of fill, and so that a landscape plan be finalized based on the new condition. The second part of my comments, it was broken down into two elements. The first one was asking for some kind of idea of where the future building might be to give a sense of what that might look like and what the landscaping might look like. But perhaps, I would say more importantly, but saying hypothetically a project didn't move forward for whatever reason, that's at all the intent or anybody's wishes. A lot of material has been moved, the whole hillside has been moved, and there's a landscape buffer that did exist naturally is going to be removed. So the comment was that at some time in the future, whether it be determined now or maybe it's 3 years down the line, whatever the board thinks is appropriate, that we discuss some replanting of the area if there's not going to be a project that's ever built in that site. Because a lot of, like I said, that side of the hillside is being completely removed. Almost all that area that is being proposed for removal is existing trees. It's an existing forest in essence, and it actually abuts up to the Lowell Tingsboro State Forest. So it's a fragment of a larger system. So that third comment is to do with a contingency if the project doesn't move forward as everybody hopes, I suspect. That there be something in place to replant the site so that it kind of regrows to something similar that might be there now. That's the essence of what I was getting at with that. Whether or not that's figured out now or at a time to be determined in the future.
Yeah, I see your point, Aaron, but I don't know how much we want to burden them. They got a current project going on of pretty good magnitude, but I do see your point. Mr. Chairman, what do you see fit here in the situation?
So the landscape plan, we're not asking for a definitive landscape plan in order for them to go ahead with the project of removing the earth. Are we saying that or not saying that?
No, the first comment would be that we continue to work with them as the original condition of approval was with the landscape plan, so that we can, once the current building is constructed, the intent of that, meaning there's a buffer to the properties on Varnum and Anson, but also the context of the site of having a large commercial facility in a suburban, single-family district, the landscaping, particularly on the western portion of the parcel boundary, lended well to a blending of those two uses, one of them a non-conforming use, and a larger one at that in a neighborhood. So that landscaping element was an important visual aesthetic enhancement or part of that blending. So what I'm talking about there is that we look at the landscape plan, make sure that it's still meeting the intent of that blend, although the side of the mountain's going to be gone, and that buffer is going to be gone with it. It doesn't mean that it needs to be figured out before the fill is removed.
Right. But I'm just trying to reach out for the language you want to put around this landscape plan. I follow exactly everything you're asking for. I'm sure they follow everything. Obviously, there was a landscape plan put in place, but now because of the removal of the material, this changes the past, I guess, current landscape plan, is what you're saying. So what terminology are we really asking for? I guess maybe that's all I'm asking for assistance on, a revised
Landscape plan with approval of DPD prior to certificate of occupancy at the current building, perhaps would be a good one.
Prior to the construction?
No, certificate of occupancy being issued for the current building.
When the building is constructed, so we're talking 2-3 years down the road.
Correct, before people move into the new.
But they'll need to come back to this board for approval on that site anyway, are they not?
Well, I'm talking about the building that's currently under construction, not the one that they're thinking of for the future. Right. No, I wouldn't want to hold it on that, because that's hypothetical at this point.
Okay.
Okay, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff is just more or less intertwined, it's like one leads into the other without binding. Okay, yeah. Okay. Do you have the language?
I'm going to give it a shot, Mr. Chairman. Make a motion to approve with the following condition, that a revised landscape plan be submitted to Planning and Development prior to occupancy certificate granted on new construction, on current construction, rather? On current construction.
The existing construction.
Existing construction, okay.
Okay. Can I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Have a roll call?
Right. I'm sorry, could we just be clear? We have two projects going on right now. We have a maintenance garage in the back, which is a very small and insignificant. We just want to make sure that it's pertinent to the TCU construction that I think Aaron is.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as we all know that, we don't have to put that in the record.
Yes.
Okay.
Trying to be clear.
I guess you're getting the nod, so I guess that means yes. Yeah.
It's a very small building on the other side of the properties.
Yeah. Have the roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
You've been unanimously approved with conditions. I wish you the best of luck, and if you could just sign the documents, wish you good luck. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Okay, under other business, we have adoption of zoning board bylaws. The City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals will review and discuss proposed rules and regulations to clearly establish administrative processes and standardized procedures of the board's meetings.
I haven't fully revised the bylaws according to Marion's request from the last meeting. Since she wasn't here, I didn't rush to get anything done. But basically, the only thing that, if everybody recalls, is outstanding is, a path or a process whereby it lays out being appointed to and then stepping down and what the eligibility for a board member is, so.
So do you have an idea of when you might be
Yeah, I think
submitting something?
if we could, it would be great to have it on the next meeting. What my intent is, I was hoping to have it approved by now, because I feel it's important to have it in place for the peer review processes. The board has been using it, but this will clarify and strengthen the board's ability to use it on a more
Okay.
regular basis. So I should have it ready for the next meeting.
Okay, great. And then, does anybody have anything else under other business they want to discuss? Yep. Next thing is minutes for approval for May 23rd.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm making a motion to approve the minutes for May 23rd, 2011.
I have a second.
Second.
Sir. Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve.
Mr. Noon?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, I guess that's it for this evening.
Yep. That being said, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So approved. So Aaron.